answer everybody's question. So the next segment is, we wanted to hear from our colleagues who really had some very personal experiences, either with themselves or their colleagues, who can take a few minutes to share that with us. So I'm going to ask Vivian and Myrna to speak at this point. We have the mics on the table, so we can just talk from the table, so that's okay.
So everyone can hear me, right? Yeah. So, my name is Vivian, and I apologize, I'm a bit under the weather, so I'll try not to cough up a lump up here. Okay, so I took the exam twice. I failed it once, and I'll tell you when I failed it. I took the exam in September of 2007. I was working for Court Appointed Special Advocates, CASA. I don't know if anyone's heard of it. But I was working for CASA at the time, and CASA was pressuring me to take the exam, otherwise I could not keep employment there. After a year, I didn't pass, and I just told my supervisor that I didn't pass the exam, and she gave me a 6-month extension, which ended up to being a year later. I took this the exam again, I will never forget. It was September 19, 2008. I was so happy. You know, I remember taking the exam, and I received 71. I know that the testing has changed, the scores have changed, but at that time, 75 was passing. I got a 71. And my heart sank to the floor. For that, it could have been a 74. And for me to get, you know, a 71, and I thought, what was it? What did I not do right? You know, I studied. Immediately, I was ashamed. Of course, immediately, your immediate reaction is to cry, first of all. So I cried. I remember my mother came to pick me up. I was crying. I was like, I failed this exam. And then all these emotions went through me. It said, was it the fact that I second-guessed myself on those questions? You know, when you have that extra time at the end, and you go back and you change those answers, was it that I had too much time and I changed those answers 5 or 6 times, and maybe those were the answers that would have gotten me the 75? I mean, there were so many other emotions that went through my head. One of the things that immediately, of course, that went through were all social workers is that I was angry. I was angry, and I went to, it's a standardized test. You know, I'm a Latina woman, and the message throughout my whole life has been, you know, people of color don't do well on standardized exams, right? So that was my defense mechanism, whether it's true or not. That was my defense mechanism, and that's what I reverted to, and I became very comfortable in that. It's a bias exam. I can't, you know, I couldn't take it, and I couldn't believe that I had failed because I studied hard. I was ashamed of telling the people at work too, because there was a girl that took it not too long before me, and she studied for 3 weeks, and she passed with like an 85. And I was like, oh, I've studied for 3 months. And, you know, and so I was constantly comparing myself to other people. And it wasn't so much that I didn't know the material. This came later. This realization came later. It wasn't so much that I didn't know the material, it's that I didn't know how to take an exam. And throughout my whole life, I never knew how to take much exams. I could recall the SAT, I could recall the GRE. I didn't know how to take exams. And this is a process that you have to constantly relearn, at least for myself. I constantly had to relearn. So of course, soon afterwards, I called up some friends who were taking the exam at the same time, and they didn't pass either. English is my second language. My first language is Spanish. My colleagues, my classmates who also went to Fordham University, they had more of a language barrier than I had because they had come to this country later. So I had an advantage of English. Plus, I was an ESL instructor, and that's the thing that to me, I was like, I've been an ESL instructor for a really long time. Like, language shouldn't be a barrier. But what I got caught up in, after we formed a group, so we formed a group, we said, okay, we all failed, there's 6 of us, we all failed, let's now motivate. The difference between the first time I took the exam and the second time I took the exam was that it wasn't no longer a solo venture, right? I got together with a group of Fordham students, and now we were going to study 3 days a week. We were going to have a study group on a Sunday for 3 months. This is what we did. the people, it was like an informal prep exam, because the people who knew a little bit more English and those that didn't know English kind of paired with one another, and it was about not so much translating, because you get lost in translation. You don't have to memorize, every single question. Those questions are not going to be on the exam. It was how to take the exam, how to look for key words. And what we all did differently as well is I never took a prep course the first time around. I decided that I was going to do it on my own. The second time around, we all took a prep course. And we all got material from different places. Instead of just having one venue to have our material from, now everyone brought material from all over. So some people had taken the ASWB, prep test, and took the LMSW here at NASW. Prep, some took Elaine Congress's prep test, that she does the study test upstairs. Those of you that come to Ford University. So we all had, and socialworkexam.com, right. So they had like a 20-minute online test. We all did that every day. Even though a lot of those questions are repetitive, we all did that every day. So I'm just going to give you some personal. So after we did that for 3 months, we all got together and we all combated our attitude. We had mantras. So I'll give you specific things that Jocelyn, one of the girls, did. She had a mantra. She says, you can do this, right? Before and the exam and after studying. I'm sorry, before studying and after studying, she would say, you can do this. My other friend, William, those of you into gospel, he would play My Name is Victory. And for those of you that like gospel music, right, it was a very to the point exam, My Name is Victory. I said, okay, this will get us through the day. Because you felt so encouraged. So right before our study sessions and after our study sessions. And for myself is not to go in with such a defeatist attitude, right? Just to be uplifted, but to know that I knew the material. Is that now I had to think, as I learned in my study prep test, is think Iowa, right? And it says, what was a social worker in Iowa do? Right? Because a social worker in New York wouldn't do the same thing as they would do in Iowa. And I said, wow, that's the best advice I got from, taking this test. And also, safety first. So, it's not going to get easier. So this is from Jessica. It calls all my friends. What advice would you give to people who are coming? From Jessica, she says, don't wait to take your exam. It's not going to get easier. And have a date and prepare as best you can. And I just want to end with this. And this person is in the audience. There's a classmate that I went to school with. His name is Chris Johnson. He is not ashamed, and I have his permission to be here. Chris has taken the exam 6 times and has failed. He says he has his own ASWB number, right? And he says 7 times is the charm. So, and what he says is anxiety and it's battling. And he says this will be his year. So, we're here for you.
As Vivian was talking, good evening, I'm Myrna, or Myrna, for those of you who are Spanish speaking like myself. As Vivian was talking, she was describing not a magic wand. And I saw so many heads going, yeah, or you can empathize what it was she was saying, right? This is a challenge. This is a challenge. This is a challenge. Anybody who tell you it ain't, you tell them they're wrong, it's a challenge, right? But it's a challenge that can be worked through. How do we do that? Not everybody. It's funny because I work at Puerto Rican Family Institute and I have some amazing social work colleagues. Amazing. Who I know not only do they know the stuff, they can teach it. They can teach it. But they're struggling. They're struggling with this test. And, like my colleague here, I'm a very rebellious one, so I'm like, oh, that stupid test, it's racist, it's discriminatory, and all this other stuff. And as I personally was preparing for the test, my partner sat down with me and he told me, you know what, you need to chill out. You need to chill out. And he's a black man, so it's not that, he thought anything else. But he told me, you need to chill out and let me teach you. He had been prepared for taking a test. He went to law school. He had all this preparation to take a test. I sat with him actually right up here in the library, right behind us actually, and I was doing the whole little study prep, and I was so amazed and a bit angry because homeboy took the practice test and took out all of them right, not knowing a darn thing about social work. So that was enlightening to me, that you know what, it is about learning how to pass the test. Can we say that? To learn to pass the test. Now, at our clinic, I saw that there was a challenge. There was a challenge with, again, amazing social workers who know this stuff, but was having a problem passing the test. So we got together and I offered to be able to do like this study group. It wasn't, it was very informal. Nobody was telling me I needed to do it. We weren't getting paid for it. We were all volunteering our time. And it was about support. And one of the things I realized was that my colleagues needed to learn how to pass the test. But passing the test was not about knowledge base. It was also about that anxiety. Kicking anxiety's butt out of that day. Telling ourselves that we can do this because we know this. And there were, I wish I had a magic wand and can say, you know what, you need to do this, that. I don't have it. But I can say that we have to continue this. This is part of our profession at this point. And trust me, I argue about this. I argue about this on a regular basis. But it is something that we need to do in order to be able to be recognized as licensed social workers. And I have my feelings about that too. But for us, it's about learning how to pass that test. You have the knowledge. Believe in yourself, because I bet you got it. You got your MSWs, and those of you who are on the come up, you're about to get your MSWs. So the knowledge, you have it. Now it's how you learn how to take a multiple choice exam. Okay? How is it that you learn to identify those keywords, right? How is it that you can learn how to relax? Be positive. Whether it be through affirmations, whether it be through prayer, gospel, whatever it is, sitting there, whatever you want to do to relax, that's important. And above all, I believe that we also need support. Whether it be from our family members, our colleagues, our friends, or what have you, get that support. There's plenty of ways now, especially with technology, that we can connect. NASW is offering a vehicle for that as well. So being able to support, get it, and then also I always suggest give it as well. Because once you pass it on. Pass on that knowledge to somebody else, because somebody else is going to need it.